Hi, it's Katrina! From mysterious footprints in the snow to prehistoric beasts that might still be around, here are 11 sightings of legendary creatures. Number 11. Mermaid. Ever since the first people ventured out into the oceans on boats, legends of mermaids have been told, either as benevolent beings who rescued lost sailors during terrible storms, or as the evil harbingers of doom themselves. With so much of the world's ocean still unexplored, it's impossible to say that they don't actually exist, I guess, and supposed sightings of them are still quite common. In 2009, the town of Kiryat Yam in Israel became the center of attention when people started seeing a mermaid swimming just off the coast during sunset. Said to resemble a cross between a young girl and a fish, she would perform a few tricks in front of onlookers before returning to the depths. The sightings went on for several months and even led to a $1 million reward being offered by local officials to the first person who managed to capture definitive proof of her. The reward has never been claimed, and the only evidence that this mermaid was real is from eyewitness accounts. It's not easy to capture a mermaid on camera. Number 10. The Yeti. The Yeti is said to be an ape-like creature that roams the peaks of the Himalayan mountains and has been a part of local folklore for hundreds of years. In 1951, British explorer Eric Shipton was looking for a new route up Mount Everest when he came upon a footprint in the snow. It looked sort of like a human foot, but much bigger. He took a picture and the local legend of the Yeti became famous all over the world. The footprint measured between 12 to 13 inches long, and the images sparked a debate as to whether this humanoid creature in the Himalayas really existed. Last year, 2019, the Indian Army tweeted pictures of what they believed to be Yeti tracks that had been found in the snow near the Makalu base camp. At an altitude of more than 17,000 feet, there are very few animal species that live in the area, let alone ones that are large enough to make prints like these. So surely the only explanation is that the abominable snowmen had recently walked by. They were apparently massive, measuring 32 inches long and 15 inches wide, and so far no one has been able to suggest any alternative explanation for how they got there. Some have made comments that perhaps it was the Indian Army that faked the images, but they surely wouldn't have done that for some fame on Twitter, would they? Number 9. The Kraken. For hundreds of years, sailors around the world have spoken of gigantic beasts of the deep that were responsible for countless shipwrecks and lost souls. Even today, there are many mysterious creatures still being discovered, so imagine a long time ago. These tales were taken so seriously that most landlubbers accepted them as fact. Look at any maps from the 17th and 18th centuries, and they'll almost always have depictions of what we see as monsters on them, with the most common one being the Kraken. But was the Kraken pure legend, or was there an element of truth to the story of a colossal octopus-type creature? Images and videos have recently been shared that suggest there are indeed creatures like this that still live in the oceans. You probably have guessed what it is. In 2013, researchers managed to capture the first recording of a giant squid swimming at depths of more than 2,000 feet, and they most certainly fit the bill. Growing to up to 43 feet long, they would be able to wrap their tentacles around a small ship, and quite possibly could have been able to capsize it. As we learn more about these giants of the deep, it's becoming increasingly likely that the legendary Kraken could be real after all. Number 8. Unicorn. Unicorns are legendary creatures that are mentioned in a variety of cultures around the world, but recent discoveries suggest that they may in fact have once actually existed, although their image has been transformed over millennia. The Siberian unicorn, or Elasmotherium sibericum, was a large rhinoceros, the size of a mammoth, that went extinct around 29,000 years ago. They were covered in thick dark fur to survive the cold environment and had a huge horn protruding from their foreheads. A fossil was recently found in Kazakhstan that proved they were alive much more recently than had been previously thought. This means that they may have lived among modern humans. People from China and Eastern Europe had stories and legends of a beast with a single horn. Ballads that told stories were passed down among the Yakut tribes, the Chinese, Europeans, and Arabs, and Persians. The one-horned beast appeared in religious texts, taking a more symbolic meaning. Regardless, some researchers are investigating the possibility of using recovered DNA to one day bring Elasmotherium back to life. Would you like to see that? Let me know in the comments below. Number 7. U28 Creature. World War I was the first war that saw the widespread use of modern weaponry, including submarine warfare. The German Empire concentrated its efforts to disrupt Allied shipping by using submarines. One of them, the German SM U28, attacked the SS Iberian, a British merchant steamer, in 1915. It was headed from Manchester, England to Boston, Massachusetts when it was hit by a torpedo off the coast of Ireland. While this will not really go down in history as a famous naval battle, there is something else that it is remembered for. The Iberian sunk with a large explosion. The captain of the sub, George von Forstner, reported seeing something very unusual. At that moment, as the ship exploded, a giant sea creature was blown out of the water to a height of about 8 feet. He and 6 other officers all saw it writhing and struggling in the debris. They all agreed it looked like a massive crocodile. He reported it was so huge it must have been about 60 feet long with a crocodile shape. He claimed to have seen it for 10 to 15 seconds at a distance of about 150 to 100 meters in bright sunshine. Von Forstner was an accomplished submarine commander and survived the war, although sadly the other crew members didn't make it. His account is believed to be credible. Now the U28 Creature, as it's called, is compared to other sea serpents, and some believe the creature was actually a prehistoric reptile such as a pliosaurus or a mosasaurus, perhaps a thalattosuchia. Did the crew of the submarine see an ancient crocodile? It's very hard to say. Number 6. Vampire remains. Vampires have been mentioned in European folklore for many centuries and are described as mysterious creatures of the night that suck the life force from humans. And while it's easy to dismiss them as fictitious entities, people believed that they were real. If they do exist, they are likely to be far more human than the stories would suggest, and could even be walking among us today. In 2009, anthropologists were investigating a plague pit in Venice when they made a gruesome discovery. During the time of the plague in the 16th century, some believe that vampires were responsible for the spread of the disease. Gravediggers had exposed burial sites and found bodies that were still growing hair and were bleeding from the mouth, so they thought that these remains were still alive. The shrouds used to cover the faces of the deceased would decay from the bacteria in the mouth, revealing the teeth. In this pit, the historians found the remains of what appears to have been a female vampire who was ceremoniously killed by the locals. She had a brick wedged into her mouth to prevent her from being able to feed on anyone. This may be the first vampire burial known in archaeology, sparking a debate on whether gravediggers were purposefully trying to exterminate the vampire or whether this is a case of a brick simply falling into a skull's mouth. The researchers from the site are adamant that this fascinating find is real, but that other colleagues are jealous of their find and their success, seeing as they were in a National Geographic documentary. Number 5. Bigfoot. Bigfoot is the most sought after and investigated legendary creature in the world. With so many TV shows, research grants, and camping trips dedicated to finding the mysterious being, you'd have thought that we'd have seen proof of it by now, but it has managed to remain elusive. Occasionally, some footage does get captured that seriously makes you wonder whether you're actually truly looking at the real deal, however, like this video that was recorded by 2 hikers as they trekked through the Salt Fork State Park in eastern Ohio. They had heard some strange noises coming from behind them, and when they turned around to take a look, they spotted a strange figure moving between the trees in the distance. It appears to be covered in fur about 6 or 7 feet tall and is moving cautiously through the undergrowth. It's certainly nothing like any of the known animals in the region. So could it be Bigfoot? Number 4. Werewolf. There's something about a full moon that brings out the strange in everyone and everything. People start acting weird, and animals, confused by the bright light in the night sky, may even start behaving like they would during the day. But could it also be true that once a month there are people that turn into wolves? There are countless legends of such creatures born from a curse that dooms them to a transformation based on the lunar cycle, but tangible evidence is hard to find. This may have changed in 2018, however, when a rancher from Montana saw a strange creature prowling on his property and did what any self-respecting farmer would. He shot it dead. When he approached the carcass, it wasn't clear what this animal was. The claws were oversized and it had a huge head, but its legs were too short to be one of the local wolf or dog species. Add to that the strangely shaped ears and the unusual coat of fur, and people have become convinced that this is either a werewolf or a direwolf, which itself is a species that's thought to be long extinct. Number 3. The Chupacabra. The Chupacabra, whose name translates to mean the goat sucker, is a legendary creature from South America that's said to prowl at night in search of animals that it can drain the blood from. It's long been blamed for the death of livestock and attacking people too, but it's also a surprisingly recently told myth, with its origins seeming to stem from several incidents that happened in the 90s. This doesn't mean that it doesn't actually exist, and there are numerous mentions in ancient writings that talk of a demonic creature very similar to the Chupacabra. They may not be confined to South America either, and in 2019 an image was caught of a possible suspect in Texas. It definitely seems to fit the descriptions of the Chupacabra, which is a dog-like creature with spines along its back that it can extend when it's hunting or in danger, and it disappeared soon after the eyewitness managed to capture the image. People in the community have been keeping a watch out ever since, but so far there have been no reports of goats or any other creatures that have been mysteriously attacked. Number 2. The Jersey Devil. If you visit New Jersey, I don't think the first thing on your mind would be strange and unusual creatures, but for more than 2 centuries, it's been home to a legend of an actual monster, a winged creature known as the Jersey Devil. There are countless records of sightings, newspaper articles dating back to the 19th century that talk about it, and images of supposed sightings, and it's one of the best documented cryptids in the world. Believed to live in the Pine Barrens in South Jersey, it is described as having a goat's head, large bat-like wings, horns, small arms, and clawed hands like a T-Rex, and a forked tail like the devil. Recently in 2019, a man was driving through the state and saw what he initially thought was a llama, but it then opened its wings and flew up to a perch in a nearby tree. He took a photo as evidence, and it reawakened the legend, with flocks of people visiting the area for their own chance at seeing the beast. Was this an actual sighting of the Jersey Devil, or was it something else entirely? We may never know for sure, but perhaps one day we'll get definitive proof that it does truly exist. That might not be a great thing. Number 1. The Loch Ness Monster. The Loch Ness Monster is undoubtedly the most famous mythical creature in the world, and its possible existence has inspired countless monster hunters to try and get a glimpse of it for themselves. While many write the stories off as an ingenious marketing ploy to attract tourists to the lake, there are still many who are convinced that the beast is real. Images and sightings have been recorded since the 1800s, but while you might have thought it's becoming less common now, Nessie fever is greater than ever. Sightings are so frequent that in 1983, the official Loch Ness Monster Sightings Register was established to keep track of all of the encounters, and according to its records, 2019 was the year with the most sightings ever. In total, they logged 18 events, which ranged from accounts by people in the area and even those watching a live stream on webcam from home. The excitement was possibly spurred on by one of the biggest scientific explorations of the Loch that has ever been conducted, which in 2019 suggested the monster could in fact be a giant eel, after finding huge levels of eel DNA in the water. Whatever you believe, there is no doubt that something strange is going on in that loch, but quite what the truth really is, we can't know for sure. Thanks for watching! Hope you enjoyed these stories. Do you believe any of these creatures actually exist? Let me know in the comments below, and be sure to subscribe if you haven't already. See you soon! Bye!